Welcome to Club Zero, the show where we embark on a cinematic quest to uncover the worst movie ever made. Over a total of 15 weeks, we'll dive deep into the bottom of the barrel of filmmaking, screening 15 of the most critically panned and universally reviled films in history. The rules are simple. To qualify for Club Zero, a movie must have at least one score of 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, whether it's from the critic side or the audience. Whatever the other score is can only go up to a maximum of 10%. Each week, I'll review one of these cinematic disasters and decide which one is worse than the last. By the end of our journey, we'll crown the ultimate worst movie ever made. Today marks the first week in our journey, and fate has randomly selected the starting film to be 2000's The Bogus Witch Project, which of course is a parody of the critically acclaimed and beloved horror film often considered to have truly popularized the found footage subgenre in horror, The Blair Witch Project. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a standing critic score of 0% with an audience score of 10, which is as high of a difference I'm allowing for this series. The real question is if they got it right. Is this faux found footage flick a flop, or is there any redeeming qualities to be found? The very first thing that you should know about the Bogus Witch Project is that it's an anthology film featuring a number of short films that are all spoofing the Blair Witch Project. Now, horror enthusiasts are no strangers to anthologies, as we have seen other found footage anthologies such as the ABCs of Death 1, 2, and even 2.5, as well as all 6 films in the VHS series. But obviously, none of these movies are comedies, and certainly not repetitious like a number of parodies based off of the same movie. An anthology often gathers its strength from the creative flair of having a different director per short film, and while that is still true as well for The Bogus Witch, the list of directors probably should have discussed and shared their scripts with each other before continuing, as most of these spoofs end with the same exact joke. The original Blair Witch film ended with the incredibly chilling image of a man standing in a corner of a room, looking down and motionless. And I guess all great or not so great minds think alike, as most of the jokes in this film couldn't really help themselves but crack a joke at that, saying that the guy is simply relieving himself. Hardy har har. Then again, if you're forced to make fun of the same movie, the material you have to go off of is bound to be limited. Anthologies, people often don't understand, sometimes struggle to tie their stories together. You have to answer if you'll just show short film after short film, or will these be connected somehow? It could be as simple as somebody sitting down and watching a VHS tape, freaking out, and then watching the next one, as these moments are kind of a short film in and of themselves. Or like in The Bogus Witch Project, you're watching some sort of horror TV channel that plays these films one after the other, and in between the films, it showcases horror-themed commercials and images of horror stereotypes doing random things in the woods. Most, if not all of the in-between film moments felt not only pointless and unfunny, but it made the overall movie feel longer, even though it really is just an hour and a half. And I began to realize that one of the best aspects of a parody, in general, believe it or not, is the plot. There were quite a few shorts going on in this film that had no plot, but rather had more of an interest in remaking some of the most memorable moments in the Blair Witch Project while making fun of them, such as the "I'm so sorry" scene, and finding something right outside their tent one night, which is terrifying, or, of course, getting turned around and lost. Each short film had a variation of this, but I promise that the best, funniest short films were the ones that had a plot, because not only does it feel like they're trying more, it also seems like even though they're making fun of the original source material, they have respect for it at the same time, which is especially true for the first short film of the bunch, which I legitimately laughed with. Not at, with. Meaning some of their jokes, which often felt smart and like an inside joke, worked for me. That alone is not good news for this being in a list of the supposed worst movies ever found on Rotten Tomatoes. I may not have loved every single short, but even if one of their jokes landed, then I would automatically say this does not belong on the list. Nevertheless, I wouldn't exactly call the movie hilarious or even good in general, but it does seem to have a good handle on the tropes of the Blair Witch Project, very much including the over-dramatic acting of Heather, who freaks out over every small thing, to getting lost due to very overtly stupid decisions that don't make much logical sense, to getting scared by clearly natural sounds and the fact that the camera must have been so close to her face during that "so sorry" scene that it doesn't seem logical whatsoever. They take those tropes and they expand on them tenfold, and some of their technical attempts throughout most of these shots is actually pretty good, especially because they didn't have the obligation to make a film look nice. It's not even HD. Visually, a lot of the times it actually looked like how the Blair Witch Project looked. If you're wondering what the worst short film was, it was whatever one that had Pauly Shore acting like Pauly Shore, auditioning for the Blair Witch Project or something. Nothing his character said in this short film made all that much logical sense, nor will you even really understand what he's doing or why. Just that he's recreating some basic scenes. Those scenes were painfully bad. Honestly though, at the end of the day, I will be giving this a letter grade of D+. It isn't the best movie in the world, not by a long shot, but I think that it's silly to be included on the list of 15 of Rotten Tomatoes' worst movies ever made. I didn't think any movie would escape an F letter grade, but here we are at D+. But I will say, I've always been a big supporter of the Blair Witch Project, and not everybody else has been. A lot of people think that that movie is stupid and unscary, so they made a bunch of short film spoofs that were obviously unfunny. But if you do love the Blair Witch Project and all of its technical mishaps, you might be able to relate a lot with amateur filmmaking with big, heavy VHS camcorders. And the Blair Witch Project always knew exactly what real found footage would look like if it were indeed found. Some of that can indeed be found in some of these shorts, and for me, I'd have to say that's high praise. Remember now, I am on a journey to find the worst film in the world based off of the requirements that I have. Right now, the movie to beat as worst film ever is obviously The Bogus Witch Project, though I do believe that it will be dethroned pretty soon, maybe even next week with our mystery film. You'll have to stick around to find out what that movie is. But in the meantime, you can let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of The Bogus Witch Project, if you have indeed seen it. If you're wondering how to watch it, it is available currently for free on plex.tv. That's where I watched it, and you'll have to suffer through a few commercials to get through the film. Or you can rent it or buy it on voodoo.com and probably some other video rental sites. Also, be sure to leave in the comments your pick for worst film ever made. And until I catch you again next week, peace out, and I'll catch you next time on Club Zero!